Rodney, happy Tuesday. How are you today?
I couldn't be better.
Good.
We had to
Microphones
split
work
me in
good.
half.
Head's looking nice and polished. Looks really awesome there.
You know, I hate saying this, but I pay a guy every week to polish it.
Really?
No.
I'm about 34 follicles from going that direction, man. I'm trying to decide, which
34
way to.
stray cats up there.
Yeah, it's gotten. Hi,
Hang on
Angie.
to
How are
it.
you? Miss California, how are you today? Doing good? Hope you're well. Got to do something. Please don't crash me. Please don't. Please. I got to launch something here. There we go. Okay,
Launch
we're
it.
safe. We're good. Good. Rodney and I, every time we're just a little bit, try to be careful.
We may be the old dudes on YouTube. I don't know.
That's okay. I'll take it, man.
Not that old. I mean,
it's better than the alternative, pal.
Hey, I'm not freezing in front of the microphone like some of our, Congress, state representatives, presidential representatives.
I'm going to bed.
Yeah.
No politics here. Hey, no politics. So, my name is Andy Elliott. I'm a realtor here in Williamson County, Tennessee. With me is Rodney Wilds, the inimitable Rodney Wilds. I can't believe I said that well. Inimitable. That was really good. Rodney Wilds, loan officer, king of lenders in Williamson County, also with First Trust right here in Williamson County. So our goal is to share information with you. We're doing a new thing called Fast Answers, covering single topics pretty quickly. We like to keep the human in it. That's what this part is. But we're going to cover that topic pretty quickly. If you have questions or concerns or anything that you'd like to know about real estate or with lending across the country, around the world, really can't do anything outside the United States. But you can call or text. Our information is easy to find. It's in the description box. We'd be happy to talk to you. If you're moving here, we can tell you, we can be more specific about this area. But that's my spiel on why we're here. We're here for you. Glad you're here. Is that good?
That's awesome. The appreciate all those kind gestures. Imitable and king. Those are descriptions I'm not used to hearing, but I like it.
You know what? I have the utmost respect. I've seen this guy pull off some miracles, and you think I'm exaggerating. I'm really not.
That's nice to say. We got a really good team.
You do. It really does. So what we're going to do today is we are starting with, I'm going to just jump right into this. The topic today is
rates.
Yes, that's right. Thank you for, here we go. Almost. Thank you, Rodney. That's right. Gotta love that, man. That was a good catch, dude.
All right, here we are. Look at this. These are a daily change from what the market is doing. Okay, so red is bad, green is good. So over the past bit here, since July, we've kind of seen a nice tick down in rates. Here, late August 21 right here, you start to see some improvement. Had some good days, got hit again. We're back down here hovering around mediocre to terrible. They're not, obviously the rates are not what they were or what they were even close to being. But it looks like there's been a small improvement since our August. And a lot of people are anticipating this to continue throughout the rest of the year. And you can see the 1% basis points down today. That's really not much of a change, if anything. You can see it's just kind of been staying steady, a little bit bad, a little bit good. And this is where we are today.
And so what I'm seeing when I Hey, where'd we go? Sorry. It's
I'm
one of
still
those,
here.
okay, gang. The glitch is back. What I'm seeing on the rates, because I watch that stuff pretty much every. Phil and Wendy, hi guys, how are you? Happy Tuesday to you. The things that I'm watching is that, that floor and ceiling that you show us every week. That floor and ceiling seems to be between now 7 and 7.3, something like that.
Yeah, the ceiling, the floors and ceilings move with like a 25-day and what's called a 50-day moving average. It's
Okay.
just so the floor and ceiling are always moving.
Right.
Earlier months ago that we kept bumping up against 7%, people would start buying long-term treasuries, and that would drive the 30-year prices down because everybody loved that 7% as a long-term investment.
Yeah.
Well, it's ticked up above that to where people, where it's just they're still available and you can buy them if you want them. So it's ticked above the ceiling I thought we would have, which was because it bounced off that 7% like 3 times during the summer. And then it's finally broke through and is trying to get back down below that now. But yeah, that was my personal 7% ceiling.
Got
That
it.
got
Yeah.
busted.
Well, and busted. Yeah. Yeah. Don't go to Vegas on that. So we're that's what it is. And if we have a chance, if you feel like chatting afterwards, I've got an article that I wanted to touch base on after we go through this next part. So if you want to stick around, what we're talking about is a new normal is what I was seeing if Rodney wanted to chat about. But today's topic and what we're trying to do is fill out a bookshelf, if you will, of quick information. This may not seem fast, but we've only been at this a couple of minutes here today. And so today's topic is how to improve your credit and calculating debt to income. If you're just getting started, this is going to be sort of sometimes maybe a scary topic. So there we go. Hey, it is.
Look at that curtain.
I love that. I'm going to have to put some music on that. So here we go. We are going to be talking about how to improve credit, bullet points. Here we go.
All right. You want me to jump in on this one?
Yeah, it's all you, Betty.
All right.
I did call you Betty by accident, so it's Buddy.
Oh, I thought it was Buddy, but I'll ignore it. So anyway, check your credit report. This is turned in. First, I want to make 2 disclaimers here. One, I'm not a credit expert. I don't even think there is such a thing as a credit expert according to Tennessee law or something like that. Okay, so the advice I'm giving you is, one, do your research. But this has become such a huge topic or a huge piece of your rate. It's just about the number one thing you need to start doing if you know your credit's not perfect. You've got to realize, you got to look at your credit, see if there's maybe an old 10. I had one time years ago, I had a $10 medical account on my wife's name and kept her, so she hadn't worked in a long time. So I just removed her from a loan. But if it'd been another scenario where I needed her income, that could have affected the loan. So check your credit report. Go to the 3 bureaus, find out what's on there, and if anything's inaccurate, get it taken care of.
And I think that there's probably a couple of different ways that you can do it. There's NerdWallet is one, Wallet Hub is another. And they handle, between the 2 of them, you do get all 3. Now, are they the most accurate? I can't vouch for that, but I tell you what, it's a great way to keep track of where you are. I don't believe that it affect your credit score at all. But if you're just getting started, if you're a first-time buyer and you're thinking, I'm ready, or, I think I'm ready, I'd like to get started in this process. This, for me, my own story is the scariest thing for me was figuring out my credit score. And it wasn't that I was bad at finance and stuff, but I just didn't know. And so I expected the worst. I'm telling you the truth. That's what I expected. And so I was afraid. It scared me. And then when I found out, when I got in there, it was like, well, you're nowhere near what you thought.
Yeah,
Meaning not nearly as bad as you expected. So if you can feel that angst because you're not sure, press through and find out, because you may be pleasantly surprised. So just wanted to add that in.
Good point. Jumping on the next section, pay bills on time. I mean, this sounds pretty standard, but if you just pay your bills before the due date. Now, when people, I hear all the time, my due date is the 1st, but I've got to the 15th. You really don't when it's considered a late payment. They can report you late at different times. So if the bill is due, my suggestion is if the bill is due, have it there before the due date. You've got to get your bills on time. And if you just do that right there, your credit's going to be off the charts great. I mean, if you pay your bills on time and have established credit for a few years, it's going to be really, really good. There's not a lot it's not very hard to get really good credit.
Yeah. And when I hear people talking about credit scores and how it's not fair and it's this and that and all that kind of stuff, when you're dealing, the way I have to look at it is, as far as a lender goes, and I've had to kind of rein people in because they sort of start treating lenders like the man, they're trying to treat you bad and stuff. And I try to explain to them that, look, somebody's getting ready to loan you $400,000, $500,000, $600,000. They're taking a risk on you. And the only way that they have to determine if you're a good risk is by your behavior that's collected data points. So just kind of rethink, maybe what you think it is versus what it really is. So that's all I got.
Yeah, it's not like you get to go into a boardroom and they get to look at you and you get to talk about, all the favorite things and your great kids and all that stuff. You're a credit score number and assets, income. I mean, it's like Andy said, it's data points. So
yeah.
Lower credit utilization. What does that mean? What this means is you could actually owe the same amount of money, and two people could owe the same amount of money. And if, say, for example, Andy has a credit card that has $5,000 balance on it, and I have a credit card that has $5,000 balance on it, but Andy's credit limit on that credit card is $20,000. So he would be 20% or 25%, right, of his utilization, his credit availability, so to speak. And if mine was if my limit was 5,000 and my balance was 5,000, I would be at 100%. This is one of the things I think that the credit, I don't know of a better way, but the credit companies do not understand or do not calculate cash. Like, it wouldn't matter if I had $200,000 in my pocket and Andy had 10 cents. He would get a better credit rating because he's only using 20% of that debt, or 25% of his credit utilization, right? He's got 20,000 available. He's only using 5. So that puts him in a category of, hey, he's not going backwards. He's got, he's just using credit card like he wants to use it. But if you look at mine, I owe the same amount of money. And since I'm at 100%, it looks like that I've maxed out my credit card, which I have, right? Which it is maxed out. So that is the credit utilization part. You could owe the same money, but it could factor different depending on what your balance is. So you need to keep your balance as low as possible according to your credit utilization. When we're talking about revolving debt, installment debts like a car payment, a house payment, those are not included because they are what they are. They're going to be an installment debt. So,
Got it.
all
And
right.
I think it's also, is it true that if you get uh, additional credit cards, that you have more credit availability, but don't use it? Does that improve your score? I guess I'm asking a credit specialist thing. That's not fair.
Yeah, that's okay. What I've heard is, I think that from the best I can tell, it looks like they want a person to have a couple credit cards and some installment debt, and obviously a mortgage really helps a lot.
Right.
So
Right.
they would like to see the multiple credit utilization, but not high balance,
Got it.
right?
Yeah.
Not maxed out credit cards. So that would be yes to the fact, unless you had 10 of them. So I think they want like 2 or 3 or something like that.
Got it. Got
And
it.
then, but if you get 10, you're probably hurting yourself. So
Yeah. Yeah. Because chances are you'll use it and then you'll get in trouble. Ready.
all right, pay down balances number 4. That is really, you can do like 3 and 4 are almost the same thing, right? Pay down balances, lower credit utilization. Now, you can pay down the balances. You always want to get rid of balances if you can. So you pay down balance. That's the easy one. But in another way you could increase your credit utilization is just to call and ask for a bump in your credit limit, right? And that's well, actually, I'm jumping to number 6, but you just call and ask, say, hey, I've been a customer for 2 years. I've paid all my payments on time. I have a $5,000 limit. Would y'all consider raising it to 10,000 or whatever, and see what they say? A lot of times they do. So, lower credit utilization, a couple different ways you can do that. Pay down balances, that's self-explanatory. Just pay them down, and then don't close old accounts. Now, that's very good advice. When you're going through something, I highly recommend don't close any accounts. If you've got some old accounts, I might consider closing those. If they haven't been used in a couple of years and they're still open, you could close an old account. But just understand, if that account's been open for 20 years and you have no other accounts, you're closing the only account that you have. So don't do that. Don't close unless you've got multiple accounts that are going and that's contributing to the score that you want. So if it's just because it's old, you may not want to close it if it's helping you. Okay.
Yeah.
But you want to get eventually to the point where you may only have a few, like 1 or 2 credit cards and an installment loan or 2, and then that's it. And then everything else is closed, and you'd be fine doing that. But don't close it. Just don't close it because it's no account. Make sure it's not like your longest standing account that's contributing mostly to your score.
Yeah, because length of time is a big contributing factor. Angie had a thought here.
All right. I've always heard the best way to get good credit is to buy everything with your card and pay it off every month. Um, hmm. I don't know. I really haven't heard it like that. Now, because having revolving debt doesn't hurt you unless it starts hurting the percentage for you. Like your revolving debt's too high and things like that, or you get too much of it. But if you're utilizing revolving credit and paying it off monthly, your credit that's like anything else. You're building good credit.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's going to be like, an installment loan is going to be just as good, in my opinion, or another use of credit, just not using the same card. Like, I wouldn't only do that. I'd only do that like if you're getting points or something from your miles or something like that, because it probably wouldn't help you as much credit wise as just the normal stuff.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Limit new credit. Um, that's just what it is. You don't, like I said, you don't want 10 accounts open of different stuff. So limit your new credit. If you've got to put something on credit, see if call one of your cards and see if they can up the balance, and you can put something on there to where you're still in good shape.
And it's interesting that you really can, if you're in good standing with your credit card company, you can call and get you can get your rates reduced. I mean, there's a good chance of that. They can lift your credit limit. I mean, that actually can happen if you call them, if you're in good standing.
Yeah, it's very common. It's very
Yeah,
common that people do that.
yeah.
It's very common. Yeah. Monitor credit. All right, just as you're, if you're, I I think it's always a good idea to have some kind of service that monitors it. Or if you don't want to have a service, then I think you can do like what Andy said, or freecreditreport.com, and you can monitor it on your own and just make sure that nothing's hitting there. Our billing system, especially with hospitals, and if you have young kids, kids tend to go to the hospital for, they get all kinds of sickness and things every week. So if they just bill you, crazy, and they can put something on your credit without you even knowing it, and that, you just don't want anything on there to give you a chance of it affecting your rate that much. So
Yeah.
it's important to monitor, just as it is check your credit report. The same thing. You got to check. You got to keep checking your credit.
Now, I want to throw out just a real quick. I'm going to call it a caution. That might be a little bit too strong, but for monitoring your credit, you see that on TV a lot with Wallet Hub and places like that.
Mm-hmm.
And listen, and it's handy to have that. But what I want you to understand about those companies, that they're in business to sell you credit cards. That's their business.
Yeah.
So mind your business when you go in there, you're checking your credit score, and get the heck out of there, because the message they're going to be telling you is, hey, this credit card's a good fit for you. This is debt relief. I mean, they're selling you something. So just be aware that if you're using it to monitor your credit and close it down, because they're trying to sell you something otherwise. I hope that's not too strong, but that's what they're doing.
No, and I used to, it used to be a little bit more popular. People used to surf that debt, meaning like if you got a credit card and say you were in college, whatever, you ran up a big credit card debt, you're out of college, whatever, you're wanting to pay this thing down, you're not charged on it anymore. You've got this card. A lot of people, when they get offers, do they get offer for a transfer balance, 0% for 12 months? Heck, transfer it. Pay it down. You get it for 0%. That'd be a huge boost. That really doesn't hurt you, because you're not, if you do it once every 12 months, it's very good. It's not going to affect your score at all. So they used to call it surfing, but as long as you're not doing it a bunch, you do it with one credit card. It's a good way to get it at 0% interest and get it paid off. So
Perfect. Ready.
Goodwill letters. Isn't this kind of the same thing we've been talking about, right?
Yeah,
It's the
yeah.
You're just calling the company, sending a letter, whatever it is, and saying, "Hey, check my, I've been a customer for a year. I've paid all my bills on time. Really, would you consider increasing it?" So
Got it.
that's
No, I didn't. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
yeah, that's just it, is calling and saying, "Hey, Goodwill, could we get that increased?"
And so for these last 2 points, we're going to drift into the debt to income. When somebody's buying a house, the first thing they're going to think of is, how much is their payment per month? I mean, that's really what you're asking. Even whatever the interest rates are, the question you're going to ask is, what does it cost me per month? And as you're trying to do these calculations with how much you earn, how much you keep, how much credit cards are burning up the money that you earn, I thought that was a perfect dovetail
Mm-hmm.
into calculating debt to income. I don't know what that was.
That was a mower going by my window. Can you see him?
Oh, no. Okay, good. I thought it was, man, I thought it was feedback. Anyway, so debt to income, how do we manage that expectation for new buyers, Ronnie?
All right. One, the debt to income is um, basically all your debt divided by your gross monthly income. Okay. So if you make, I'll make it simple. If you make $120,000 a year, you make 10,000 a month. Okay. So what you take is in all of your debt, let's say a car payment, a house payment, um, anything installment or revolving counts, like your phone, your electricity, trash bill, none of that. The utilities do not count in the debt to income ratio,
Is that right?
just your debt.
How
Okay.
about medical? Has the rules changed in the medical now?
Really, medical collections are not. We like. I think if you have a medical collection,
Mm,
then we don't have to. It's we just ignore it. Basically, is
okay,
what we're
okay,
told.
okay.
Medical debt. Now, if they're paying it like an installment, then that would be just be a regular debt. If
Got it.
they've got a debt with a hospital or whatever, we don't see those very often though. I don't know if hospitals don't take people without insurance or so I don't know. Um,
I'm sorry, you can't come in here.
yeah. Um, so the background on that is how to calculate the monthly debt. I think it is important just to understand what debt you go, because people will tend to add their phones in, utilities in, trash bills, all that stuff. Alls we count. We take, like, if you make 35,000 at your job, that's what we take. We do not take the post tax amount. So we take pre tax amount and
Okay.
give you credit for the whole income.
Hmm.
And then we take just the debts that are installment and revolving, like credit card debts, car payments, things like that. No utilities. And so you just take the debt you have, divide that by your income, and that's your debt to income ratio. Now, what you need to know is, hey, well, what ratios are acceptable? Um, Fannie Mae says, like, say 30% and 40%, just to kind of go between conventional and FHA. So 30% is just your housing expense, like your principal, interest, taxes, insurance, your whole payment regarding your house, where you don't owe anybody at the end of the year. Sorry about that. So you don't owe anybody at the end of the year. That's your principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. That's your first, or what's called the front ratio. Um, and then the back is just adding your debts, and they want that about 10% of your gross income. So if you make 10,000 a month, they would say, okay, well, we'd love for your car and everything else to be 1,000 a month. So you'd go 30% on the front end with a house payment, and your back end would be 40%. And that's about what they like to see with those two calculations.
Got it. And Angie had a really kind of a good point. Did you just explain that and I missed it?
No, I never understood why they grow gross instead of net income per month. Um, I think I don't know, but I'll say this: if they did go, when we calculate like Social Security income for somebody that doesn't pay taxes on that Social Security, we actually gross that up by the tax amount. Okay, so that way they get credit for, like every other customer does in paying taxes. But all I can say, Angie, if they did it the opposite way, the ratios would be higher. Like if they did net, they would have what they would say is, okay, well, 70% of your net income would be your total ratio or whatever it is. And that's, I don't know, it seems.
Yeah, but now that you mention it, now that I think more deeply about it, taxes are kind of a flexible thing. I mean, if you're doing a W-2, that's certain, you can depend on a certain amount getting yanked. But if you're self-employment, that kind of stuff, you're talking about deductibles, and tax debt gets kind of fluffy, And so,
So self-employed, we use net income. If you don't, if you don't have it taken out of your taxes, if you don't
yeah,
have a W-2 where it's going to be taken,
yeah.
we use, when you're self-employed, we basically count what you pay taxes on, basically.
And that's where people get into trouble, because they'll deduct everything, and it's like they earn
Right.
-$3.
Yeah, and it's a trade-off. It's like, okay, and say you do that, and somebody writes off all this income, and they don't pay taxes on $200,000 or $300,000, which saves them what could save them up to $100,000 a year easily, right?
Mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
if it's a 33% tax bracket there,
Yeah.
so if they do that, but they have to go get a higher interest rate on their mortgage, it's like a drop in the bucket compared to what you just. It's okay. Well, I didn't claim and pay my taxes. It saved me 100,000, but I've got to take a 8% rate instead of a 7% rate because I fall into a different program. To me, it's like, man, you've just saved a fortune when it comes to taxes. Like, I would trade that all day long. For me, I
Yeah,
mean,
I
but
get it.
that's kind of how it goes.
Yeah, that's good. All right, so that is the way, and we're just kind of doing the surface conversation about this kind of stuff, but how to improve your credit, get that on track, calculating that debt to income ratio. And that's our fast answers for this. So I'm going to do this intro, and we'll be right back. All right. So now when somebody's searching through there, they'll be able to see where the beginning and the end of that is. So thank you for that, Rodney. That was really good. And again, I'm going to say to anybody that's thinking about buying, if you're nervous about finding out the truth about your finances, I don't know how else to say that, because that was me. Just do it, and you'll probably be pleasantly surprised. It shocks me on how many people that holds back. So the other thing that I wanted to touch base with on in terms of having a quick discussion, nothing lengthy, and it's still better to. I'm going to add this before we move on to this next thing. Here we go. Bing. Ooh, that's okay. That's what do we do with that? Still better to have no debt except for your mortgage, or to have more debt to show you're making payments on time.
In my opinion, it's never good to have more debt. There's never a situation, in my opinion, that's more debt's good. Now, you're going to have to play the game, the credit game. You're going to have to get a credit card, or you're going to have to do some of that to get into the upper echelon of the credit score. Okay, you can probably get in the low 700s if you just have a house payment and maybe an occasional car payment or something like that. But you're going to have to kind of play the game a little bit, because I'm convinced that they want you to have a couple installment and a couple revolving.
Yeah.
And the revolving, you don't have to have debt on. Like you said, you could just charge on it and pay it off monthly, or if you did leave a balance on it, just don't have it to where it's above 25% of the limit, right? So debt doesn't hurt you. The credit is what you're after, not the debt. So you can get the credit by paying it off monthly, or carrying a very small balance over.
Yeah.
But
I'm going to
Never does
remember
debt
that. You
hurt
have
you.
to play. I'm going to remember that, Rod. That was really good. You have to play the credit game. Just get over it, because we're running the risk of dipping back into this conversation. But I've worked with a lot of Dave Ramsey people who don't have any credit card debt at all, and it creates a whole different animal.
Right. And
There's a whole different.
that's what I say to them, and that's Dave if you followed any majority of or a portion of Dave Ramsey stuff, you're going to be better off financially than you were. Like the guy really knows how to connect with America as far as paying off debt and things like that. But I think he goes so far that it's not realistic for a lot of people, like a lot of first time home buyers, for them to come up with 15 and 20% down.
Yeah.
I'm closing on a loan, a minimum down payment loan for a family, and this purchase is the best thing that's happened to this family in their life. They're going to start building equity. They're not financially well to do and all that stuff. It's a average, and they can't follow that. I need to save up 20%, put it on a 15-year loan plan that he has. That's a great plan, but not everybody gets there. So,
right. Yeah. But the people that do actively do that, I'm telling you, it creates a whole different. It opens up a whole new can of worms. Not to get started.
Yeah, you telling me, Andy? Hey, when they tell me, I'm like, well, where's your down payment? Well, it's coming from my envelope. I'm like, the envelope system. I'm like, okay.
And I've literally had that.
Yeah,
because I used to service a lot of Dave Ramsey people.
Yeah, we run into Dave Ramsey customers probably more than anybody because he's right down the street from us. Right? I mean, he's got a
drive by his place every day.
Building down 5 miles from us. That's that he broadcasts all over the world. So yeah, we get his clients all the time, which are they're very good, but they're so conditioned to be like, well, all my money's in the envelope. And I'm like, oh my gosh,
great. How do we source that? Okay, so we're gonna. That was a good. That had to be addressed. So thank you for that. The question I'm throwing out to you, Rodney, and I think that we've been touching on this. We've done pretty good on maybe not making predictions, but feeling our way through this economy as it's juked and jived here earlier this year. And the question I have is the new payments, the new rates, the new amounts that houses cost. Is it getting to the point where it's a new normal? Remember, we talked about what new normal means, several months ago. Do you see that beginning to happen?
Well, technically it is the new normal.
Yeah.
Right. It is. I mean, the fact of the matter is it is a new normal. Now, I don't think everybody's going to agree to that's the new normal until we get like less than 80% of the people are still sitting in their house, not moving because they don't like the new normal. So until they like the new normal, I'm like, I understand it's the new normal, but until they understand it's the new normal, so I don't think we're there yet. I don't think it's the new normal, because if it was a new normal, I think we'd have more activity. That's my only.
No, and I agree with you, but the argument has to be said that there's still people buying houses, and that's the one that's sort of that bleeding edge, that beginnings of, well, this is what we got to do to get a house. But what's not being, it's also, if that's to be said, if some people have the tolerance for a new normal, and I'll throw out a couple of numbers. The average, now this is average, is going to be different in everywhere, but average across country for 30-year fix was $2,300. It's a fairly low priced house. But according to new data, that this in July, a couple months ago, is $2,300. And that's a record-breaking average payment for P&I, principal and interest. It's a 60% increase over the last 2 years, 60%. That's a big number. And so that new normal, for the people that are doing it, certainly have a better income, certainly have good credit. They have all those things that are lined up. That's new normal for them. But it's also going to be new normal. The cutoff line for people unable to buy a house is way higher than it used to be. That's also a new normal that I don't like saying that.
Yeah, it really is. And then, I guess my point where a lot of the majority of the purchases come from is a sell and a buy. They're not buying into the new normal when they've got 3.5% in their hand, right?
Yep.
Sitting in their house right now currently.
And they're saying nearly a quarter, 23% had payments of more than $3,000. I mean, 2 years ago, a $3,000 mortgage, you could have got that for, I'm going to guess, $1,800. Is that probably?
Yeah. 40%, was it 40% less or 60% less?
God, boy, I tell you. Anyway, so that was my whole point, is that the new normal is, I just hope it doesn't stay that way. I really do. I don't know. There's not much more to be said about that, but the fact of the matter is, we'll have to see what the Fed says coming up. I'm just being cautious on how I say that. It's not the guys, it's the Fed.
Yeah.
How they respond.
Yeah, I mean, it's this affordability issue is through the roof, isn't it? I mean, just to be honest, I mean, it's the affordability issue is the whole reason that the government's taken all these steps to stop the housing market, slow inflation. They can't eliminate first-time home buyers in America, and I think they knew that, and I think it's kind of what they were trying to do.
Yeah. And I think that, and what I've seen on the numbers is that people follow the dollars. That's human nature, and so if you can't afford as much, you're going to go to an area that costs less. That sounds almost too obvious to state, but that's where you're going to have like 37013 around here. You're going to have an increase in properties over there, because it's as a zip code, it just costs a little bit less over there. It just does, And so, at any rate, I just wanted to touch on that, because I think what we'll be watching going forward, this year is going to be the end of this year. We're just sliding into fall, where things are going to even probably slow down more unless rates take a dip. If rates take a dip, that's going to change the rules on what normally happens in the fall. Normally things start to get a little sleepy September, October.
Mm-hmm.
But if the rates drop, you're going to see things wake up. It's just not normal. It is not a normal market. So
no, it's nothing normal about it. And I will I think I seen some from the National Association of Mortgage Bankers today. They're predicting rates go down, even next year into the 5s. So I had a pretty bold prediction. So
I'll show you something real quick if we've got the time. I'll show you. Bang. This is what the predict. Is this what you were looking at?
So, it's something similar, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's like -6% by the MBA, Fannie Mae 1.5%, Morgan Stanley down 4%, American Enterprise, I don't know who those guys, Zillow down 7%. I mean, that's
where's the I need to see the NAR. They always give me good news.
Yeah, they're not on this particular. We didn't have that, but they've got other fish to fry, if you know what I mean.
Oh yeah, they dealing with their area.
Rodney, that was a great day today. I appreciate everything that you do for us each and every week. You're so smart, way above my pay grade. It's an honor to be on here with you. Did you have any final thoughts as we say our goodbyes to Angie and Phil and Wendy?
Good to see you guys. Thank y'all for joining today, as always.
Thank you so much. And we're going to look at that. Went to sleep right on time, you dog. Talk to you next week. Talk to you next Tuesday. See everybody. Thanks a lot.